Welcome back to the fourth and final presentation where we discuss project formulation and evaluation using risk assessments. I'm Chris Dunn, Director of HEC. In this presentation, we will describe how to compile, display, and interpret results of your flood risk management studies. So in this series of presentations, we provided an overview of the SMART planning process. We described the plan formulation and evaluation strategy. We identified the without project condition, helped you understand the analysis perspective of flood risk management measures, and in this presentation, we will talk about compiling, displaying, and interpreting results. So what are some of the metrics that must be used to compare plans? In this figure, you'll see 8 alternatives, including the without project plan. So on the far left column are all your alternatives. So there's 8 of those. And the next column over is the without project expected annual damage. There's only one value there, that's 100, and that goes to the without project alternative. The next column over is your with project expected annual damages, and those are the damages that will occur even if you build the project. The next column over is your annual damages reduced, and that's simply just taking your with project EAD and subtracting that from your without project EAD. Next column over is your annual costs. Next column over is your net benefits. Your net benefits are derived from subtracting the annual costs from your annual damages reduced. And the cell or the alternative field that gives you the largest net benefits is your NED plan. So in this example, which value or which alternative is our NED plan? It's channel modification. It has the greatest net benefits. So that would be the project that we have to evaluate. Doesn't mean we have to recommend it, but we have to at least describe it and display it. So the next column over is start of significant damage. It's like that could be a value in the floodplain. It could be a value in the top of the levee. Next column over is one of our performance indices, annual exceedance probability, or the likelihood that you would get wet at that stage of significant damage, and across all possible events, including your project performance. So with the without project condition, you have a 20% chance of exceeding 25 feet. If you did the NED plan, channel modification, you have a 3% chance of exceeding 25 feet. Let's take the levee, alternative 7. In this case, you have a 0.5% chance of exceeding the top of the levee, or 40 feet. Okay, so this is part of the story. We know what our NED plan is, it's channel modification. Let's look at some other performance indices. So for example, let's look at conditional non-exceedance probability or assurance. The without project plan, start of significant damage is 25 feet. You have a 10% chance of being protected or containing the 25-year event. You have a 1% chance of containing the 50-year event. You have a 0% chance of containing the 100-year event or the 250-year event. Let's look at the NED plan, channel modification. In this case, you have a 65% chance of containing the 25-year event, a 40% chance of containing the 50-year event, a 15% chance of containing the 100-year event, and a 2% chance of containing the 250-year event. Let's go back down to the levee. In this case, you have a 99% chance of containing the 25-year event and a 95% chance of containing the 50-year event. You have an 80% chance of containing the 100-year event and a 50% chance of containing the 250-year event. Would this be a levee that you could say meets the NFIP criteria for a levee so that people in the interior would not have to pay flood insurance? The answer is no. The value needs to be at least 90% assurance or 90% probability of containing the 100-year event. So this particular levee does not have that. The only thing in this particular table that protects you with at least 90% assurance is acquisition or removing all of your structures out of the floodplain. So is it the Corps' requirement to identify the levee or the project that would protect you from having to pay flood insurance? No, it's not. Our job is to do plan evaluation, plan formulation to develop the NED plan. Of course, the local agency might be interested in getting the protection of a levee that would allow them not to have pay flood insurance, But again, that's not necessarily the Corps' obligation to do that. If it happens to be that one of the alternatives meets that criteria, great. But again, it's not our obligation to develop that. So let's look at some of the reports that come out of FDA. FDA provides an enormous amount flexibility in the reports that you can see. So it starts with this report. And I really like this report because what it tells you is whether you have the information inputted into the FDA analysis in order to run the FDA. So it starts out there in the without project plan. It shows you that you have your flow frequency information in, that's the P. It shows that you have your stage discharge information in, that's the S. The dollar sign says that you have your economic information in. So what it's telling you is for the base year and most likely future year, you have the right amount of information in there. Doesn't mean you have good information, just means that you have the relationships identified for the without project condition and the other three plans as well. So you're off to a good start. This next particular report gives you damages by analysis year and damage category. The analysis year in this case would be 2020. So that's telling you you have an expected annual damage at 2020, and it's for a particular reach, and it's across commercial and residential damage categories. And so you can see the commercial and residential numbers as well as the total damages by exceedance frequency. Another report out of FDA just gives you damages reduced. So in this particular report, you can see the without project damages and the without project damages, and the damages reduced by exceedance probability. In this particular report, you get the expected annual damages by plan and damage category. So what you're seeing here are the same four plans: without project plan, plan 1, plan 2, and plan 3. And you can see that the damages are reported by commercial property as well as by residential property, and also your total damages. In this report, you see EAD, or expected annual damages, reduced, and the distribution of the expected annual damages. So you know you're doing a risk analysis because you see that distribution about your expected annual damages. So the same four plans or alternatives, and there's your expected annual damages without project, with project, the damages reduced, and the probability of damages reduced exceeding certain indices, 75%, 50%, and 25%. So like I said, it's not necessarily to get hung up on this particular report, but just to show you that FDA gives you lots of options on how to display the information. Equivalent annual damage by plan and damage category is what you see in this particular report. This is where you need to get to. It's fine to express or to display expected annual damages, but ultimately you should be making your decisions based on equivalent annual damages, because this is representing the fact that you've looked at a base year and a most likely future year, and you've incorporated that planning analysis period, which is required out of the planning guidance notebook. So here we have the same four alternatives, and then there's the equivalent annual damages for commercial property and residential property across the analysis period of 50 years using a discount rate of 2.875. Another table that you can get out of the FDA reports is the report on project performance by damage reach. Here's two damage reaches. Okay, South Fork of the Bear River, South Fork damage reach 8 and damage reach 9. And if you look across, you can get the annual exceedance probability. You can get the long-term exceedance probability, or LTEP, and those of 10, 30, and 50-year time periods. And then you can get the conditional non-exceedance probability by events. So if we look at these two damage reaches, one has the levy, one does not. Does it meet the requirement of for National Flood Insurance Program? The way that you would know this is that you would look at the 1% event, okay, the 100-year event, and see if either of those values is greater than 0.9, because that would tell you that you have 90% assurance of containing the 1% chance event. And again, you can see in this case that you do not have assurances, or a 90% assurance of containing the 1% event. So no, these particular projects would not satisfy the requirements of the National Flood Insurance Program, and so they would not be a FEMA certified levies. Okay, and again, that's okay. The Corps is not required to build those or even evaluate those. So we have now completed all 4 presentations in this series, introducing you to project formulation and evaluation using risk assessments. In this presentation, we discussed how to compile, display, and interpret results. Now would be a great time to capture any questions you have on this particular session, and we can discuss them in our next discussion session. Thank you, and I look forward to talking with you during the discussion session.